All right, welcome to this week of Inside Aviation. We got a lot to talk about this week with our very own Preston Holland, but more on that later. This episode is airing on Friday, so it is actually the 10-year anniversary of when MH370 disappeared from radar after departing from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. It's been 10 years, and they've only found few different pieces, but not anything substantial. A lot of chatter right now about going to relaunch the search. So it's
What are the leading theories right now? What's going on with that? Like after 10 years and a bad Netflix documentary, like what's
pretty bad.
What's going on? Like what do people think?
You know, there's so many theories with stuff like this out there. Yeah, it's hard to sit and speculate. I think one of the bigger theories has always been pilot suicide. But again, there's no evidence to substantiate that as of now. I think the key problem here is that, they have nothing to piece it together with. There's no wreckage, and there's been, reports of people seeing stuff and finding stuff, but there's, never been sort of official findings. And so, that's certainly been one of the lead theories is pilot suicide. There's been explosive decompression situations. There's been speculation. Early on, there was some crazy speculation about it, like, getting hijacked and sent to another island, like a random island in the middle of nowhere. But obviously that's not the case now. But we can't rule anything out, and that's what's crazy. I don't know.
So I have a couple questions. Are there any like maintenance issues or historical issues with that model of the 777 that you can point to that could be like, hey, this could have been it? Because it hasn't, like, nothing else has come up, right?
No, man. The 777-200 venerable airplane. It's never really had a track record of any issues to that effect. And if you recall, MH370 happened, and then a couple months later, there was MH17, which was shot down.
Yeah.
That airline didn't really catch a break there for a little while. So
that area of the world where 370 went down and took off and was kind of flying around is, like, in my opinion, pretty observed by a lot of countries. Just
absolutely.
It's like US, China, Australia, all there. So is there a scenario where somebody does know, like, some info of where it happened? They just can't release the info.
You just don't know. I don't think it could be a possibility. But it's pretty, it seems to perplex many. It's gotten to the point where private companies, that own those search and rescue submarines are offering the government in the region to say, look, you won't need to pay us unless we find anything. So it's kind of up to the government now whether they want to accept another search. They say they have additional evidence that they can use that as a cue to go search. Who knows? I remember it happening, and I remember, Airliners was fairly new at the time. It was about a year old, and we, I was up till like all night, I think, covering it because it was, it was nighttime here in the States, and it was crazy. It was just like with aviation accidents, you find that there's sort of a string of events that happens afterwards, but here it was just perplexing. There was nothing. There was sort of very, very little information coming in after the fact, and of course now we know a decade later that the thing is hasn't been remotely even found yet. So
so when I watched the bad Netflix documentary with my girlfriend, she's not an aviation person, and she had a good question of, like, how in the age of, like, satellites, radar coverage in most of the world, I know over the ocean it's gets spotty, and, like, at the time we didn't have ADS-B, but in this, like, it was what, 2014, right? This happened. Like, we're not talking like 90s tech for, like, aviation. Like, what do you say to, like, somebody from the general public who's like, how is this possible in this day and age with where airlines are at?
I don't know. I asked myself the same question. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, ADS-B, I don't know, may or may not have been equipped, may not have been required at the time, but some operators were already installing it. And even without that, like you said, there's satellite capabilities. Yes, radar coverage over bodies of water can become very spotty. But it's hard to say. It's how something like this happens, and if it ever is found at this point, it also makes you wonder too. Okay, you found the wreckage, but how does this help piece together the story? It's been so long, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And we can get into the whole, maybe we'll do a whole episode on this and bring in an expert.
We should
talk about the pilot's history and like mechanical and all that. But I think like the most like almost insulting theory to not only like the industry, but also like, the families of those involved was that weird like UFO one. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that one.
Like it was like so obviously like CGI'd and all this. Like, come on. Like, what do we do?
No, that's brutal.
Yeah. No, but we got to do a deep dive into this because I'm like pretty interested in it and kind of how that whole thing went down. And just that airline just had bad luck the following months after that. But to a less, sad note, we have Preston Holland on today, which originally was going to be half an episode, but he talked so long, it's going to be a whole hour-long episode of just Preston Holland talking aircraft finance, private jet travel, how a little bit of airline stuff there at the end. But I thought this was a good one. I learned a lot personally. As a pilot, I thought like I knew how to like finance an aircraft, but I guess a lot more goes into it. But anyways, here's Preston Holland from Flying Finance. All right, Preston Holland, welcome to Inside Aviation. So kind of what do you do at Flying Finance? I don't really know your title, to be honest.
So I'm the chief commercial officer, which means that I run all the day-to-day for our aviation finance business. I see, Kevin, that you're wearing a Flying Finance hat. So thanks for repping. I appreciate that.
It was free. So I'm all about free hats.
It was free hats. Hey, if any listeners want a free hat, write in the comments how much you like this podcast, and I'll find your address and send you a free hat.
And then like the plug.
So dude, yeah. So what do you guys like? I guess what's the business model of a media brand having a finance company?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we help people buy airplanes, right? So if you think about if any of the listeners have ever bought an airplane, they've probably experienced this. You call your local bank that you have your house, your car, your boat, your RV, maybe your second house through, and you say, hey, by the way, I'm buying an airplane, right? Maybe you're buying an SR-22, and you're saying, hey, I'm ready to step up into something so that I can go visit all my different houses, or maybe for my business. And they say, we know nothing about airplanes, so good luck. We help people kind of intermediate between that, right? So we help figure out kind of what the goal is for an individual, right? So, hey, I'm looking for lowest monthly payment, or maybe I'm looking for, strong interest rates, right? Or maybe I'm looking for, as least money down as I can put, right? Or any combination of the three. And we say, okay, cool. And then we go out, we create competition in the marketplace for your loan, right? So we send it out to a couple of different lenders and we say, hey, this is the profile. This is what we're looking at. Can you help us out? And, we create a little bit of efficiency in the marketplace. We also, are huge on education, right? So we'll teach the people that are buying airplanes, TBO times is big, right? If your engine hasn't been TBO'd within the last, 10 or 15 years, or if you're over the TBO time, according to the manufacturer, banks start to get squirrely on it, right? So we help people, we help educate on the front end, and then we help walk them through the process of buying the airplane, help them set up escrow, help them do a lot of that stuff. We work hand in hand with a lot of brokers that are out there that, are kind of helping in some of the other facilitating parts. We're helping facilitating the actual financing behind it.
Gotcha. And so are you seeing mostly first-time buyers, or people who are upgrading, already have a plane, want another one?
It's a little bit of both. We're not seeing a lot of refinance right now. Transparently, the Fed funds rates are still really high, which is driving interest rates up. So everybody who bought airplanes from call it 2016 until 2021, 2022, all have amazing interest rates. So they're not going to go refinance their airplanes. We're not seeing a lot of refinance right now. We're expecting to see a little bit more of that at the end of this year. It's a mix of both. It's some first-time buyers, some people that are stepping up, right? So I've got a guy that I'm helping step up out of a Mooney into, he's buying a M600. So he's stepping up. Yeah, it's a pretty big step up, right? Last fall, I helped somebody step out of an SR20. So they learned in the SR20 and they stepped up into a Piper Meridian. Aviation's a step up market. I mean, Kevin, what the first airplane that you ever flew was probably a 150, and then you stepped into a 172, and then from there to a 182, 206,
just never ending up. Yeah.
It's never ending upgrade, right? So we see a lot of people upgrading. Those buyers are, one of the nice parts about working with those buyers is that we're not having to explain to them the process. They've been there, done that before. We're able to hit the ground running. But we work with a lot of first time buyers. I mean, you look at kind of the Cirrus demographic, right? That is traditionally first time buyers, right? People who are buying an SR20 or an SR22. Traditionally, it's the first airplane that they've bought. They probably flew one at their flight school and they said, hey, I'm tired of paying, $350 an hour. And so I want to just own it. And so that's primarily what we see in some of those markets. So,
yeah. And I guess out of that, are you seeing mostly personal use or people buying it for business, or what's going on right now?
Yeah. So bonus depreciation is a big topic of conversations with our clients. We have a lot of clients, frankly, that we're kind of in the initial phases and we're all sitting around waiting to see what happens with the Senate on bonus depreciation. So as a quick crash course for those people that aren't familiar with what bonus depreciation is, because our legal counsel is going to ask me to say this is not tax advice. This is not financial advice. This is for the intention of commentary purposes only. But 100% bonus depreciation was something that was implemented in, I believe, right around 2016, 2017. And it had a phase out period at the end of it, right? So you had last year was 80% bonus depreciation. This year is 60% bonus depreciation. But there's currently a bill in the Senate that is trying to bring back 100% bonus depreciation. What that means for clients that are financing, and this is a conversation that I'm having with people a lot, is basically they're taking the tax savings that comes with the 100% bonus depreciation. And that is essentially the tax savings that they'll get from that offsets the down payment that they put on their airplane. With 100% bonus depreciation, the math comes very close to 20% of your purchase price, because of marginal tax brackets and a lot of, taxy things that you should talk to your CPA about. And so at 60%, it's not as beneficial. You're still having to come out of pocket with a fair amount of cash. And so what we're seeing is a lot of people sitting around saying, you know what, I'm going to wait and see what the Senate does. If they pass it, it passed the House almost unanimously. I mean, this is not a controversial part of legislation. Yeah. It's just slow. Right. So especially senators. I mean, if you watch Unusual Whales on Twitter, I'm a big Twitter guy. Unusual Whales that tracks all the Congress people's stock picks. Congress wants this to go through. I mean, let's be honest. So we have a lot of people sitting around waiting for that. Primarily, I'd say 70% of our buyers own some sort of a business, and the airplane is going to accelerate their business. Either profits or growth or whatever. That's primarily who we see. We also see, high income W-2s, or even, we're even seeing, as you look at kind of the pilot shortage and everybody's trying to build time. And I don't know if you've called your local flight school recently, but, prices have gone up. I mean, it's expensive just to jump in a 150. So, we're even seeing student pilots that are saying, hey, I'm going to the airline. I need to build time. I'm going to buy a 150. We're working with those people too.
Cool. So I guess, people are waiting for this to pass. And also they're saying interest rates might go down at the end of the year into 25. Do you think there will be kind of a hot market towards Q3, Q4 here for not only all of this, but also they're going to need, tax write-off at the end of the year, all that stuff?
Yeah. So the busiest time of year to buy an airplane is in Q3, Q4. So anybody who's listening, who's saying, I don't really care about tax planning or tax harvesting, you're going to get the best deals in Q1 and Q2, relatively speaking, in kind of a regular market, right? We're easing off of kind of the post-pandemic, tail of all the slosh money that was going around, and we've got, it's all working its way out of the system. And airplanes, took a 30% appreciation in some markets during that period of time, and so we're easing off of it right now. I think, right now what we're seeing is a lot of holding patterns, and I talk to a lot of people in the industry. I work with a lot of different transaction folks. They're all saying the same thing. It is basically everybody's kind of in a wait and see period, which means that airplanes are sitting for longer, which means there's probably a deal to be had for those people that need to move it. I think if you couple 100% bonus depreciation coming back and interest rates dropping, which I'm still waiting to see that happen. Most capital sources that we're talking to are still confident, even though we just had a pretty bad inflation print. And I think we get inflation numbers in the next week or so for February. But they're still pretty confident that it's going to ease off going into the end of the year. I'd say bonus depreciation plus, our first or second rate cut, that's going to light the market on fire from a demand side, right? You're going to have a lot of confidence in the economy, right? People who buy airplanes tend to not live paycheck to paycheck. They tend to be relatively financially savvy. I mean, this is kind of generally speaking, right? So a lot of it has to do with confidence in the economy and kind of a forward-looking picture. And so rates dropping, bonus depreciation, feeling confident in the economy, I think all those things together are going to bring back the buyers, which ultimately is going to, prop up supply or decrease supply, prop up prices, right? If you remember Econ 101, I don't know, which you guys went to school for, but supply and demand, right? That's what determines price.
Nice. So, transparently, what we've had this company, for now, like 6 months now, 7 months, Flying Finance?
Yeah. So we acquired it July of 23, but really we really rebranded to Flying Finance in the fall of last year. So it's been a couple months.
So, since you've been working on that, working with the team over there, what's something about the industry you didn't expect, to face, to hit, that you've been dealing with before you even got into it?
That's a really good question. I've not been asked that question. I'm on a lot of podcasts. I have not been asked that question. That's a good question, Kevin. I think one of the things that I didn't expect is I didn't expect, I really expected the banks to be more accepting of kind of the packages that we give them. I mean, at the end of the day, a commercial credit package is a commercial credit package. Whether you're buying a crane or a dump truck or an airplane, right? You're going to have the same documentation when you actually go present it to the bank. I thought that we were just going to basically be facilitating the credit package and then passing it off. But we have to fight, especially now. Look, banks are inherently conservative, and we want it that way. We as Americans in the American banking system, we want our banks to be conservative. The banks have gotten even more conservative, even in the last 8 months since I've been working this full time. We have a team that works with me that have been doing this for a lot longer than I have, and they're all kind of saying the same thing: is the banks are getting really, really tight. So we're having to actually fight on our clients' behalf. I mean, we're pulling up P&Ls and balance sheets on our clients' behalf to the bank and highlighting parts of the tax return and saying, look, here's where you got this wrong, or here's where your underwriters, didn't give us credit for this. Like we're doing, we really are acting on behalf of our client to kick this across the finish line in anything that's not just a home run. And frankly, nothing's a home run anymore. With these banks, they are really, really nitpicky. They want every single piece of tax documentation, every piece of financial information. So we're actually having to, in a way, obviously we work with the banks and we have to keep the good relationship with them, but we're also able to push them. We've increased our volume. I mean, we're growing about 100% month over month. If you look back since Flying kind of rebranded it, and we have the volume that gives us a little bit of that, call it leverage with the banks. So we're able to push on our clients' behalf. I wasn't expecting for us to have to push as hard as we have been.
Yeah. No. So I guess, do banks, they care about the financial side of the clients and all that, but do they care about pilot ratings, pilots they're hiring, insurance rates for the aircraft, the overall safety of the industry. Do they, even tap into that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a conversation with a lender this week. I would say to a certain extent, I mean, if you are a student pilot buying a Bonanza, right, that is going to be a red flag for the underwriters because your chances of a gear up are pretty high, right? It's probably too much airplane than what you're ready for, right? If you've got 20 hours and you say, I'm going to go buy a Bonanza or an SR22T or whatever, the banks are looking at your ratings and at your history. And look, what we have to do with these banks is we have to paint a beautiful picture of who you are as a credit worthy person. We also have to paint a beautiful picture of who you are as a pilot, safety record, where's it being stored, right? And on the corporate side, when you talk about the corporate side, it gets even more nitpicky. It's what's the company that's managing it? Because if it's somebody that nobody has ever heard of, it's going to be a red flag. They're going to say, maybe not. If you look at, where is it going to be based? If it's based in South Florida, right? There's a little bit of risk appetite that comes with being in a coastal state. How often are you flying it out of the country, right? If for some reason they needed to go get your airplane, if it's in Bermuda, right, that's very hard for the bank, right? If you default while your airplane is in Bermuda, that is a risk that they're having to underwrite. So how often?
Yeah, that's sketch.
Yeah.
Who are your pilots? There's a lot of stuff that they're trying to paint the whole picture. They want to they have to be confident that I'm going to advance you this money and I'm going to get it back and everybody's going to be happy.
Well, that sounds like it's such a process I would never thought of, like when buying a plane, like especially at like those levels. So like somebody like me, like W2 guy who wants to get a 182 with you guys, I fly flying finance. I see some of your tweets. I'm a newsletter subscriber to Preston's newsletter. How do I get started without even, talking to you?
Yeah. So flyingfinance.com/apply-now, or there's a giant red apply button in the top right. Fill out an application. We're going to want to know how much debt do you currently have? Do you own your house? Do you own your plane? Do you own your houses out or your cars outright? Do you, what's your DTI? What's your debt to income ratio? That's going to be an important factor to it. How much money do you have in the bank, right? You're going to want to see some sort of liquidity that in the event that you did lose your job, you're going to make your payment on your airplane. And we ask all of this. Look, we've got an online application. It's easy. It's mobile responsive. We try to make this as simple as possible so that you can start the conversation. And then one of the guys on our team will reach out, or gals on our team will reach out, and they'll, have an initial conversation and say, look, what are you trying to buy? Do you have an airplane picked out? Give me a spec sheet on the airplane. We want to see, that kind of stuff. Depending on how much you're buying it for, there's some, if you're under $200,000 purchase price, we can usually get it done with an application, a few bank statements, a W-2, and, a spec sheet on the airplane, right? We're not going to need to do a thorough cavity search via your tax returns, as long as you stay below that threshold. Once you cross over, it's going to feel a lot more like buying a house than it's going to feel like than buying a car or an RV or something like that.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question first, then I'm going to hit you with a hypothetical. So is there ever a case where it makes sense to buy an airplane instead of flying commercial?
So yeah, that's a really good question. So just back of the napkin math here, right? So we're gonna a couple of things that I would consider, right? If somebody asked me that question and I said, from a financial standpoint, if you fly first class, maybe there's a chance, right? From a purely finance standpoint. If you're looking at the value of time, right? If you look at, I'll give you an example. Okay, so I'm here at our corporate headquarters in Chattanooga. Chattanooga has terrible direct air service, and Ryan and Kevin both know this from
the worst, dude. It's so bad.
To headquarters. Ryan's actually got better commercial air service than Kevin does. Ryan's at least got four round trips to DFW from Chattanooga. Kevin, on the other hand, in Denver, until we get maybe the United direct to Denver, which would be great, has to come through Chicago. And that's about his only option, or else he's double layovers. So for Chattanooga, and let's say I'm regularly going to Cincinnati. Then we're going to Cincinnati, Columbus, Ohio. I'm going to Memphis. I'm going to South Georgia, North Florida, right? Tallahassee, something like that. My drive radius is going to be, 6 to 8 hours, right? Is what I'm going to be driving. And in an airplane, I can cut that in half, right? It's 4 hours. On a commercial airline, for me to get to Columbus, Ohio, I have to get on Delta first thing in the morning, or American. Personally, I am a Delta flyer. I know
Wake
Ryan
up at 4 a.m.
Not at 4 a.m. Chattanooga, the airport's really easy to get through. So, but I do fly Delta because my justification is I'm going to get stuck somewhere on a layover. I'd rather be an expensive Uber drive from my house than a expensive layover from my house. And so that's why I personally fly Delta. But Chattanooga to Delta, it's like a 27-minute flight. There's a 319 that leaves Chattanooga first thing in the morning, and it's like the most comical flight. It's like I think you get to maybe 12,000 feet, but a lot of times you don't even get there before they get cleared straight in. To Atlanta, 2-hour layover most likely, and then from Atlanta to Columbus, up there, do your thing, come back. Whereas in a GA airplane, calling an SR-22, be there in under 2 hours, maybe right around 2 hours. There, I could be there all day, jump back in, come home, saving on hotel rooms, saving on, my wife or my 2-year-old being upset that I was gone for another night. Right. From an economic standpoint, does it always make sense? No. From a quality of life standpoint, from a time standpoint, if you value your time at say $100 an hour, it probably, comes really close to making sense.
So I think that's something that not enough people talk about, especially like on TikTok and, IG Reels and everything. They're all about PJs and like G4s, citations. Like you can get like a pretty good use out of like a high performance piston or even like one of the, smaller turboprops. Do you see like a lot of, individuals or companies going for that type of thing for their business?
Yeah. So I wrote about this in my newsletter last week. So there's a company called Lift Aviation. They're in Austin, and they only, they're a dry lease brokerage service. So it's a bit of a different business model, but the only airplanes kind of, that they manage are all turboprops. It's SR-22s and up. It's SR-22s through CJ2s. So it's a pretty tight window, right? High performance piston, single engine turboprop. They've got a King Air and then a couple of CJ2s that they manage. Those types of range. I mean, look, here's the deal. It's not inexpensive. An SR-22 new off the line right now is $1 million. Which I can't do fast math in my head on what a payment would be on that per month, but not cheap. You'll get a CJ2, used market, $1.5 million, $2 million is like really wishful thinking. Single engine turboprop, you can get, a TBM 700 for around 1.2, I think 1.4 right now, somewhere around there. And they cost about $400 to $500 per hour to fly. Real cost, right? You're talking about fuel. And so I think that it's the one thing that people don't talk about enough is how much general aviation is not a G650. How much of private aviation, how many flights that actually take place that aren't in that, call it upper echelon, right? That everybody's like, oh, wow, I'm jumping on a PJ, right? Okay, yeah. But if you're going to use it as a business tool, right, you shouldn't be, cost $4,500 an hour indirect cost to fly a 650, right? It's like 10 times the amount of direct cost that it costs to fly a Vision Jet, right?
Okay. Well, hey, I just wanted to kind of give you a hypothetical here because you just kind of took it with what I was going to give you, which is like, let's say, somebody comes to you, Preston, and they have a business, probably does, I don't know, it's small, medium size real estate investment firm. Let's say it does 5 million EBITDA a year. Not a pilot though. That's the key part. They're not a pilot. They say, I am in a second tier city, which, like Chattanooga would probably be in that category and has to go to different towns, across the South. to visit different properties. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think, if you're doing regional travel, a single engine turboprop is going to be your best bet. You could do a high performance piston. I think it depends on how fast you're trying to get there and how far you're trying to go. In a single engine turboprop in a tier 2 city, you can pay a contract pilot. There is one in your city. I mean, I really don't care what city you're in. You can find single engine turboprop pilots. There's not a type rating required. There's just kind of some insurance requirements for total time, total turbine time, etc. But a single engine turboprop, you can buy one, kind of call it the get-in price, right? Which is going to be kind of your older, that TBM 700 range, the Piper Malibu Mirage. I can't ever remember that one. It's there's the Malibu and the Mirage. One's a piston, one's a turboprop. It's the same airframe, so I always confuse which one is which. I don't think there's anything else kind of in that vintage. Epic wasn't around yet. And so you buy one of those for about $1 million, which is not nothing. But when you're talking about a $5 million EBITDA company, you're talking about, there's a depreciation aspect there. There is a cost of travel aspect there. There is some tax benefits that you should talk to your CPA about, to see how much that's going to save you in kind of a tax burden standpoint. And it really reduces your overall operating cost. And then you're not spending money on cars. You're not spending associate time driving between properties. If you leave Chattanooga and you wanted to visit a location in Savannah, a location in Tallahassee, and a location in Mobile, you do all three of those in the same day, in theory, right? In a single engine turboprop. It'd be an early morning and a late night, but it's one day. Versus in a car, you're talking about, that's a 4-day trip. If you're on commercial, it's at least a 3-day trip, but you're probably renting a car somewhere in between there and driving between, and you show up, you're not nearly as crisp and able to, you're not on, right? When, you've gotten off an airliner and, you've been traveling for 8 hours and, you're not ready to just walk right into a high performance meeting, right? All of those things are kind of intangibles that, are really the story of general aviation that I think don't get taught or don't get talked about nearly enough, where it's like, a day rate on a single engine turboprop pilot, I don't know, $750 to $1,200 a day. If you're at $1,200 to be like, if you're in an expensive city, Chattanooga is probably a little bit less than that. And fuel.
So I'm going to flip the coin too on this one. Just curious. If you live in a major tier 1 metropolitan city, still same 5 million EBITDA company, when does it start to stop making sense to own the aircraft?
If you have good direct air service to all of the locations that you have to visit on a regular basis. So if you are in a major metro, and your example about real estate, you're in a major metro, you're in Atlanta, so you have Delta hub service out of Atlanta. And your primary markets that you're buying in is you're buying Class B industrial in Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Nashville, across the Sun Belt, right? Miami, Orlando. You're going to be able to probably get a direct airliner there at any given time of the day. You could probably make it out and back in the same day. Or you can connect through and be in another location. Financially, doesn't make sense. Probably becomes less making sense. But again, how much you value your time, how much you value your team's time. You can't. You're always going to have 2 hours in the front and 45 minutes in the back. There is no getting around that. Whereas using general aviation, it is, you show up, you get in the airplane, you land, you walk out to the rental car. 5 minutes later, there's 3 hours baked in on either on every leg of the trip that you can get back, right? Using general aviation.
So Preston, I have 2 more questions, and I want you to review some TikToks for us. Will you guys find a plane for a client? Like, if they don't know what they want, like, hey dude, I want something to get me, like Ryan's example, like a regional dude. Like, do you go like, hey, let me go find it for you, or do you have like partners for that?
So we're not an aircraft broker. That is, a good buy side broker. And look, I talk about this in my newsletter. I've talked about it a couple of times and made mention of it, but a good buy side broker is going to return multiples of value of whatever you pay them, right? There's a whole lot of people up in arms about the whole real estate agent, fixed commission fees and things like that. And I think I agree in some way, shape, or form. I've bought a house. I've used a buy-side realtor. I'm not 100% sure what value I actually got out of that. With an airplane, it's a whole lot different because there is a myriad of things that you probably don't know what to ask for. Even if you've owned airplanes before, let's say you're moving out of a Lear 45 and you're moving into a Challenger 604. There are so many different things that are totally different on both of those airplanes. And unless you feel as though you are a perfect expert, and I've got an unfortunate reality for everybody, you're not. There's a lot of things, C checks, for instance, right? On a 604, totally different than a 45. If the hours, this is a very technical minutia problem, but I had one of these situations with a client. If your cycle hours are right before your C check requirement on a 604, you're looking at about a $400,000 or $500,000 expense about 6 months after you buy the airplane, which is fine, but you're probably going to want to negotiate the price down $500,000 or $600,000 to make up for that maintenance event that's coming up in the future. If you don't know exactly what the C check is and exactly what C checks are, right, or how much they cost, you could accidentally overpay for an airplane because you aren't aware of, that stuff. And a lot of these brokers, they're going to function a lot more like buy-side M&A brokers as opposed to like real estate agents. They have an entire team in the backside, in the back end that is doing all the analysis for you. So we usually connect them, with a broker that we work with to acquire. In the single engine piston range, it's a little bit harder to justify a buy-side broker. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. Again, depends on how much you value your time. A lot of times we'll send people listings from aircraftforsale.com and say, hey, we saw that this just came up and we know that it fits your buying criteria. Wanted to make sure that you took a look at it, in case you're curious. We've got 4 or 5 clients right now that are approved, ready to go, banks ready to wire money. They're just searching for an airplane.
Dang. Well, I guess, my last question here is, how do I fly private for free?
So that is a great question, Kevin. You're poking on something that is a hot button issue for me. There's a lot of people on TikTok and a lot of people on Instagram Reels. And if you're here watching on YouTube, maybe on YouTube Shorts, that claim that you can offset your hourly cost when you get on the airplane by chartering out your airplane. And I will tell you this, I do math like this for a living. It is not possible to offset flying 30 or 40 hours for free by chartering your airplane. If you were to do it, your airplane would have to fly like 1,800 hours a year. And I'll tell you this, there are very few airplanes out there. Actually, I would argue, I don't even think NetJets is flying 1,800 hours a year, to be honest with you. It's just physically not possible. When you look at, what a lot of these TikTok influencers will say is, okay, if I booked a charter on I'll use an example. If I booked a charter on a Phenom 300, I'm going to book it for 10 grand. Well, I follow Preston on Twitter and I realized that it costs about $3,300 an hour to operate a Phenom 300. So I'm going to put it on the open market and I'm going to make $6,700 an hour for every hour that it flies in the charter. Unfortunately, there is a whole lot more cost that goes into that ecosystem before you actually see it. And you're only seeing, the owner of the airplane is only seeing about 65% of the advertised rate of a charter. By the time everybody else gets paid, you get paid last. Oh, and by the way, you're responsible for maintenance. So what type of maintenance reserves you're putting aside, all of that. It's just not really possible. Now, there are a few airframes that are what I would call, I kind of coined this term, the charter, it's like the charter margin spread is high enough that you're going to get pretty close. The Citation XLS is a great example. It's very inexpensive to fly, but the charter demand is so high for that airplane that you can get a premium for it. And you can get that spread a little bit wider, and you might be able to fly 2 hours for free or 3 hours for free. But really the better way to think about it is, I'm going to offset my insurance, my hangar cost, my aircraft management cost, all of the things that I'm going to pay whether it flies or not. I'm going to offset those with the contribution margin that comes from chartering my airplane. And then when I get on the airplane, I'm going to fly it at cost because I'm the owner and I'm now only responsible for the direct operating costs for the hours that I fly. That's the right way to do the math. And look, you're not going to buy something and, I don't care how much bonus depreciation you need to justify it. It still, the math does not suss out all the way to the end. Very best, you break even and you get to tell people you have a jet. And I don't know if it's worth the risk for being able to say that.
Math is not math. And dude, you need a TikTok account, like above, like add it on to your Twitter.
My intern's trying to get me on TikTok, and I'm like,
perfect.
I have a face for radio.
All right, I'm not going to comment on that. Anyway, cool. So let me start here with a few TikToks that me and Ryan found that we kind of want to get your comments on. This first one is kind of funny.
Here's how to fly a private jet for free. It took me a couple of go-arounds to find a charter company that was really ninja at this. I use my jet once or twice a month, and when I'm not, this company is chartering my jet out to other people. And I've had some really famous people, rappers, artists that have been on my personal private jet. They're paying $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 per trip. All of that goes into the charter bank account to offset all my costs. At the end of the day, the net effect is I'm flying anywhere between free and worst case scenario, a few $100,000 a year. Some of my biggest business deals have been made on jets. So whenever I fly anywhere, if I got extra seats, I'm like, who wants to come with me? Who's up to doing something big in business? Biggest deal that ever came from flying private was with a buddy of mine. We were going to be going to Ukraine together. And while we're in the jet on the way back, he's like, Chris, there's this company I've been working on. I wonder what you think about it. By the time we touched down, that deal was done. That one deal might end up making me more money than everything combined I've ever done up until this point. And what do I think for that? The jet.
All right. So you gonna tell us what you commented on?
I've seen this guy before. Yeah. I've gotten this one in my DMs. All right. And if you want to go read, there's a really interesting interview. And I promise I'm not trying to just plug all of our stuff. We just happen to own a lot of media in aviation. But avbuyer.com actually did a profile on this guy. So you can actually go see, the reality of what his numbers actually suss out to. Okay, first comment. Best case free, worst case a few $100,000 a year. Yeah. That is a spread. That is quite the spread.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what your risk profile is, but I will tell you this. That is a function of zero interest rate phenomenon. And I will say that very confidently. The reality is that there are so many people that are chartering airplanes and have for the last 4 years that before this flew Comfort Plus, and they will go back to Comfort Plus eventually. Ryan, you made the point. If you're in a major city, this is exactly who you are talking about. They are the folks that when you charter an airplane, there is no level of future commitment. It is a single transaction. You're relying on the aircraft management company to source you good, strong demand. You are trusting the economy to maintain its incredible trajectory that it's been on for the past 10 years. You are looking for the cost of fuel to not skyrocket. There are so many variables in that you potentially could have that would go so sideways that I personally don't think that me personally, my risk profile, now look, I don't have a few $100,000 sitting around to be able to light on fire, but that profile does not make sense for me. Let me give you the second point. I think that he clearly has found an audience on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram or wherever, and that is great. And he is monetizing his audience. let me let you into a little secret. If you buy his highest tier coaching course, you get a free ride with him on his private jet. Now, if that is part of the math that's going in there, sure, you'll fly for free. But if you, the average consumer, you don't have that kind of an audience, that is not something that is going to be a reality for you. So it may actually be a reality for him. He may actually fly free in the grand scheme of things when you piece everything together. Maybe he's chartering it out to his friends that he's doing business deals with, and all of that is good, fine, and dandy. But to make a blanket statement, in my opinion, now, again, I have no problem with the guy. I don't think that what he's doing is bad. I think more power to him if he can do it. And I appreciate that he's bringing light to private aviation. I will tell you this, the math ain't mathin'. It does not suss out that he's not making that much margin on his actual direct operating cost. And then if you include debt service and real depreciation cost, there's no way he's not making money. You bought the airplane for 10, you put a couple thousand hours on it and you sell it for 5, you have $5 million of real cash cost. That's not accounting cost, that is real cost. Those are all the reasons why I'm like, look, that's just not right advice. Now, if you're okay, if you want to put a little asterisk on there and say, I'm cash flowing on my jet, okay, I actually can squint and see that you are cash flow neutral on your jet. Okay. But that does not mean you're actually making money, and you're using, and there's also a red herring argument in there that really, it's interesting because it's trying to correlate two things that are not correlated. I'm making all this money based off of deals that I've done on my business jet. Yes, that may be true. And I own a business jet and it pays for itself and I fly for free. That also may be true. Those two things are not related. But you're drawing this juxtaposition between the two that says they are related. I don't know. That's just me personally.
No, I learned something. That's really interesting. Yeah, because I've seen it and I'm like, this, like from like a surface level point of view, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. So diving into the details, now I get it. I guess there's one more thing, Preston, where it's like, why would I charter a plane? Why would I buy one? Why would I even get a first class ticket on an airline when I can get an open leg? So, yeah.
Kevin did his research. He knew my 2 buttons, and he said, "I'm gonna wait. I'm just gonna push him.
I'm gonna push her live." All right, here it is. Let's see.
Here's how I spend $300 to fly on private planes. You can get what's called empty leg flights. So typically when you
that is less than a first class seat most of the time. Yeah.
I know. We're already starting out on a not right. Like, this is already not right. JSX is not flying private. All right, continue. Sorry.
They're going to love
that. Yeah, they're going to.
Anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per hour of travel. Now, when you take that trip to your destination, that plane still has to go back to where it came from. This is where the empty leg comes in. Those private jet charters realize that they can make money on those flights back instead of flying them empty. And I've seen these epic 10-seater jets go from Vegas to Arizona or California to Vegas for only $2,500. So I can go get me and 9 other buddies and we can all pay $250 to fly on our own private jet. You don't have to go through security or TSA. You can show up 15 minutes before the flight and then off you go. So if you ever want to fly private and you thought it was just for wealthy people, it's actually cheaper than you think.
So I think we need to start that by clarifying that JSX is not an empty leg operator.
JSX is not an empty leg operator.
They're actually a great product.
Yes.
JSX is a fantastic product. Yeah. But this is, okay, look, there's another Instagram that Kevin sent me the other day that had this same exact problem. Is you're saying one thing and yet you're showing another thing. And if I'm ignorant enough, which frankly, I have not been doing this for that long, but I was ignorant 3 years ago. I would have read that and been like, oh heck yeah, $250, I'm all in, right? Good luck finding an empty leg, first of all, that actually fits your mission. But that's kind of beside the point. But he's sitting here going, let me tell you all about empty leg charters, which is, mind you, a legitimate thing. There is legitimately empty legs and you can legitimately buy them. That is not an inaccurate statement. That he's saying in front of JSX, which is a scheduled airline that technically flies under Part 135. So I guess maybe you could say technically you're chartering a plane, but that's kind of like saying, I don't know, like, let's go get on my yacht and it is in the marina and no one's really sure, you know, whether it's yours or not, or renting one of those airplane tubes to take pictures in, but it's not actually going anywhere.
Yeah, no. First off, I like JSX. That's awesome. And their companies are popping up like that, I think, to take advantage of kind of like what's going on now and this weird like marketing social media culture, like Aero, that they're like a fancier jet at JSX, which makes no sense. They fly same plane, same everything.
Just as a reminder, SetJet, which was the fancier JSX, just shut down a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
that's a bummer.
The math, hey, look, when the math doesn't math, companies shut down. That is the reality, right? If your numbers don't make sense at a certain point, you're going to shut down. Like, duh.
So this is the perfect scenario here. We have the airline guy. So like, why does JSX work while all these other guys are not?
Well, JSX works because they just started doing a lot more of this, but flying into smaller airports, they're not dealing with passenger facility charges, larger terminals and larger, airport environments. And the thing with JSX is that they're financially, from my understanding, doing okay. But the problem is they're hanging in the regulatory balance. And, one change by either the TSA, which sounds like it might be right around the corner, or the FAA in the regulations could really ruin the entire business model. And, if I were their CEO, Alex, that would definitely be keeping me up at night. And he had and these major airlines are doing everything they can. They're weaponizing really the regulators to kind of go after JSX and reduce the market. I mean, JSX has a huge operation. Their headquarters is actually in a hangar at Dallas Love Field, which is home to Southwest. And Southwest has been working really hard to make sure that the regulators are aware of their activities.
Well, and here's the other thing, Ryan, that I want to point out is the risk of and forgive me, I'm not super intimately familiar with JSX's seat numbers, but it's like what, 30 seats, I think?
30, yeah.
30, call it 30. Okay, 80% of 30 is a whole lot more than 80% of 16, right?
Yeah, right.
So if you have 16 people and everybody's paying $1,000 and it's $16,000, or you have 30 people and you have to get to $16,000 to make the math, and you have one person not show up or get sick or cancel or whatever, you're still probably at the very least breaking even on the leg. Whereas SetJet, in my opinion, messed up is that they had so much customer concentration on each individual seat that a 50% airplane was losing so much money on every leg that they couldn't financially make that model make sense. Whereas with 30 people, if you fill that thing 80% full, if you say, look, we have to be 65% full to make profit or to make margin on this flight. Okay, you can look out and you can project and you can say, okay, hey, we've got, we're not 65% full often enough. So, a great example is they canceled I think it's the Dallas to Nashville leg because it wasn't filling up and it wasn't profitable, right? And you can pivot on that. Whereas SetJet was locked in to Scottsdale. I'm pretty sure they're in Arizona somewhere.
They were Scottsdale.
They were locked into Scottsdale. They had a trip to LA, Vegas, maybe 2 other locations. And if you have 10 people that don't need to go to Vegas, but you have 4 people that do, are you going to make the 4 people mad? Or are you going to run the thing unprofitable? That's the decision you have to make. As opposed to JSX says, okay, hey, no more scheduled Dallas to Nashville. Planes weren't making any money. We're now going to do Dallas to Vail or whatever.
Well, yeah, and JSX operates, much more like an air carrier in terms of yield management strategies and some of the stuff they're able to do that can offset, the risks of a lower load factor. I think it'll be very interesting to watch JSX here because there's no way that business model will survive if they do end up having to go the traditional route of even some Part 135 operators like Contour have to go to the terminal and go through that process. So, it'll be very interesting to see because I think, they built that business model on expeditious, not dealing with TSA and all that. So,
yeah. back to Kevin's point though, to talk about empty legs, because I'm quite passionate about this point that this TikToker made, and I don't want this to be lost on our audience. Do empty legs exist? Yes, but it's a bit like Bigfoot, right? There is a whole lot of people out there claiming that they've seen one, but you probably have never seen one yourself. And there are apps that you can do it on, right? Wheels Up, if you're a Wheels Up member, you get access to their empty legs. But what happens if it's like, well, like I'm in Chattanooga, right? And maybe there's a flight leaving from Cleveland, Tennessee, which is up the street, going to, and I want to go to like, I don't know, Bentonville, Arkansas. It's a great example because I was there last year. And I saw an empty leg that was going from Cleveland to Bentonville, Arkansas. I was like, man, I'd love to go to Bentonville, Arkansas. But the logistics of getting home are awful, right? You may spend $2,500 getting there for you and 10 of your friends, but you're going to spend $4,000 getting home because like you're going to have to fly to Chattanooga and then you're going to have to get 10 people in an Uber to go back and get your cars up at Cleveland because there's not going to be an empty leg coming back. Unless you live in Palm Beach, and even then, you know, it's again, supply and demand. There is a huge demand for empty legs coming out of Palm Beach. Yes, it is the most popular airport. The most popular city pair for private jets in the United States is Palm Beach Atlantic PBI to Teterboro and back. What does that mean? It means there's probably going to be a revenue leg coming home that's going to outbid you because they're not going to publish that for $2,500. They're going to publish it at full rate and try and sell that route back because there's so much demand there. So it's a market imbalance. You might be able to take advantage of the market imbalance. The only one that I've seen, frankly, transparently, the only one that I even watch is Vaunt. And even then, I've yet to find a trip that actually that I wanted to take. Like one time I needed to go to Miami. I needed to be there on Friday. The Vaunt leg went on Saturday. Dang it. I missed it, right? But I could have gotten on it and I could have flown commercial home. It would have lined up perfectly with my travel. But the reality of empty legs is like, look, they're not nearly as popular as any of these TikTokers make you think. And they're also not nearly as inexpensive. Like they're saying that $2,500 leg. Well, how did everybody get home? Another $250 at least to get back.
Apparently they took JSX home. So,
yeah.
Got in.
So Ryan, this last one you picked out. Do you want to brief him on it?
Oh, it's good old Steve Versano. I'm sure that's a familiar name to you, Preston.
I like old Steve.
Yeah.
All right, let me get it.
Hey Steve, I want to sell jets. Should I use social media?
Well, first you got to know how to sell jets, and then you can go use social media. But social media is not going to help you sell jets if you don't know how to sell jets.
What's your experience on social media, and has it helped you?
Actually, it has. The exposure has been amazing. They've gotten really, really known all over the world, and the youth of the world is really taking attention to the airplane industry, wanting to get into the industry and things like that. So it's good that we're really inspiring and motivating these young kids. But from the standpoint of aircraft sales, yeah, it's definitely helping our business.
Thanks, Steve. Now I know why they say you're the best in the business.
All right. Preston,
So I have a question first off.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, okay.
There you go.
So you're big on Twitter, X, whatever the heck it's called now. Has it helped your business?
Yeah. X has definitely helped my business. I have brought in, we've brought in, because I started creating content on X, we will do 4 jet transactions in the next 3 months, financing it that would have not known about us unless they trusted me as their source. I helped a subscriber. I connected a subscriber with a broker friend of mine. He bought a Challenger 300. It's, it has genuinely created opportunities that would not have existed otherwise. That's a lot of work. Tonight's newsletter night. So I will be up until about 2 a.m. tonight after my wife goes to bed writing my newsletter. Just because that's kind of when I find the most inspiration. And a lot of times I spend all of Tuesday trying to figure out what I'm going to write about. And then I sit down and I just hammer it out. But it's, it's definitely had a really positive impact. I'm stoked to continue. It's funny. It started out of conversations like this, right? Where you guys have questions for me and it's stuff that I happen to know because I work in the industry. And I was answering the same question over and over and over and over and over, and over in my DMs. And so I said, you know what, I'm just going to write a newsletter. And then when somebody asks me a question that I've already written about, I'll just send them the link and be like, here, go read about it here. And it started as that. I threw a poll on Twitter. I had just started tweeting about jets. I had maybe 2,100 followers. I threw a poll out and said, would you read a newsletter if I wrote about private aviation? And I had like 300 people like click yes. And I crossed 1,000 followers maybe 4 days after I started the newsletter, just because there's so little information, good information out there. You look at these guys on TikTok, it's not good information. It's hype and it's good and it's, whatever. And Steve genuinely does. Out of all the people, Steve's an industry guy. Steve does actually give correct information, right? But there's a lot of not good content out there. And so I'm saying, look, I'm an insider. I have a stake in you understanding that this is a sustainable industry, and we need for you to actually understand what's going on here. And so, it's really made a really positive impact. I'm speaking at Main Street Summit in the Midwest because of my Twitter account, which is a bunch of investors and small business owners that gather in Columbia, Missouri. I'm on a podcast tomorrow afternoon because of my Twitter. I've had opportunities that, frankly, big Twitter accounts, like we're talking million followers, have sent me DMs and said, "Oh, I didn't realize that this was that approachable. I have that much money. How do I buy an airplane?" Right. So I've had a really great time. I enjoy creating the content. I enjoy writing the newsletter. So yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Preston Holland 6. The at Preston Holland is taken. If you're listening, I would buy it from you. So yeah.
Nice, man. And where can people sign up for your newsletter?
So if you go to my Twitter profile, it is in there's a link in the bio for that. And I'm sure the lovely producers of Inside Aviation might throw me a link in the description here.
Yeah, they will. Well, thanks, man, for coming on. I'm sure we'll keep bringing you on as more TikToks and more outlandish stuff happens with the industry. And hopefully we see that uptick at the end of the year.
Dude, let's make it a segment. Let's do it at least monthly. And it's like outlandish TikToks with Preston. And I'll just dissect it. I'll just be like, here's why you're wrong. We can do it Stitch style.
Let's do it. I'm down. Cool. Thanks for coming, dude.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, dude. So I think the best part about talking to Preston was the TikToks and going over that stuff with him. Oh, man. And I need him to get a TikTok account because he would be hilarious on there. And I think he would actually just be like really good educational content for not only people who are in the search for a plane, but people who didn't know it was an option. And something we didn't talk about, which I wish he did, is this part of aviation, I think, is inspiring people to engage with the industry, the topic, and maybe hopefully bleed into it eventually. Yeah, but it did remind me, like talking about all these charters, about the story you talked about the Delta pilot chartering.
Yeah.
What is it?
Delta pilot chartered, Delta captain. He chartered an entire Airbus A330 for his retirement flight. So typically airline pilots, it's a big send off when you retire after a 30+ year career most often. And this captain chartered his own airplane and he flew it with friends and family. And actually, he was able to get other Delta captains who were not granted a retirement ceremony on board as well to celebrate. And that's, it's different.
So, very different. So giving your best estimate, what do you think the cost is of that flight with the stop in LA?
Well, who knows? I mean, it really depends. Major airlines in the U.S. charter their wide bodies out all the time. The major NFL teams, meetings, events, big things like that. And kind of the going rate when I was Googling around for Airbus A330 per hour is like 30,000. I would expect it to be a little more than that. But I have, I'm not sure. It's hard to say because, also, he's an employee of the company. They might have helped out. Who knows? But it's also on the other hand, it's different. But I also thought it was really special that he brought the other pilots who were not granted a retirement ceremony along. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty on brand for Delta to do that too. So like after their employees and do all that.
Absolutely.
And I'm speaking that way as a United fan. But anyway, cool. Well, I expect you to charter a jet whenever I leave this company for me, and we can have a whole retirement.
We'll do that.
We'll ceremony for us,
and you'll pay the $300,000 bill, right?
Yeah, of course. All right. Catch you guys later.
See ya.